Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7 p.m. and the date is October 9. At this time, I call the meeting to order. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates, the alternates taking full part in discussions and becoming voting members in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Present tonight are Mr. Galsey, Joan Kranowski, Lisa Carson, Kate Housley, and we have a new member whose name is Thomas Raby. He's a graduate student in public administration, a member of the Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs, and a community assistant with off-campus life. And we're very happy to have you. Tonight, Ms. Housley will be voting as a regular member. I am Betty Hollow, the acting chair. Also present is our secretary, Paul Eschenbacher. The board operates according to the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 230910C, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board finds, based on direct, specific findings of fact, that each of the following conditions has been supported. Practical difficulty and undue hardship because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property. A literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Exceptional circumstances. They are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone in the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone in the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought, one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. This may or may not apply tonight. The board also has the power to review decisions of the zoning administrator where an error is alleged. Hear requests for conditionally permitted uses, hear requests for substitution of non-conforming uses, determine the number of required off-street parking spaces if the specific use is not contained in Section 2311, Table B. And it goes on, but I don't think the other issues are pertinent to us tonight. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens aggrieved by a decision of the board may petition the Athens County Board of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant. Tonight we only have a single case on the agenda, and it is Case 1211V. It's a property at 7 South High Street. The zone is R3. The applicant is requesting a variance from ACC 230504C and ACC 2310 Table B off-street parking requirements to allow remodeling that adds cubic content to a non-conforming residential structure that has 0 parking spaces where 6 parking spaces are the required minimum. Now, we always ask our secretary, Mr. Eschenbacher, to explain a little bit about the case before we begin. Yes, I do need to. Thank you. All of those who wish to voice your opinion tonight need to be sworn in. Let's see, wait a minute, piece of paper, this. So will you stand if you intend to speak?
Yeah, you might as well, just in case.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so let's hear from Mr. Eschenbacher about the particulars of the case.
Okay. A while ago, when they were doing maintenance at the house, they found that a section of the roof was damaged. They began to do repair work on it, and during that repair time, a fire started. After the fire, they decided to expand the room, the attic room, the top room that they were working on, which kicked in the ordinance that we're discussing tonight about adding cubic content means that any non-conforming building has to come into conformity. The non-conformity for this building is the parking. So that's why we're here for them to seek that variance.
Okay.
Is there any fire report on that incident?
I don't think I have one with me. I don't know if they ever
Called the fire department?
concluded absolutely what the cause was.
Okay.
But
Could I ask a further question? In our packet, we have pictures of, and I visually saw because I went to the site, a lot of construction going on, and yet we're just getting the variance appeal now. So could you explain the circumstances of that?
there was a question as to whether they would need a variance based upon if they were indeed adding cubic content. Once that was established, then we demanded that they apply, put in an application, which was refused.
When I talked to the code manager the other day, he said that it was actually the code office that went to the building site and saw that the construction was going on and told them to cease and desist because they had not applied for a permit. Is that correct?
As far as I understand, yes. I wasn't part of that process directly.
Okay.
Other comments you need to have clarified before we proceed? Okay. Will you give us your name and address, please?
George McCarthy. I'm an attorney with Malika Gall, Sloan, Sillery, and McCarthy, representing Mr. Wharton here tonight. 35 North College Street, P.O. Box 958, Athens, Ohio.
Thank you.
Some of this information, I've also spoken to Co-Director Patsky with regard to the situation. Mr. Wharton, who's here, also was in direct contact with Mr. Patsky concerning the property in question. And at the time that they had water damage on the roof, was approved to undertake that work to obviously repair the roof. When he undertook that work to repair the roof, he was undergoing that work, and as Mr. Essenbacher indicated, there was cubic content added to the third floor of the property. Basically, what had occurred is when they were undertaking repair to the roof, there was a fire during the reconstruction period. During the reconstruction period, it's my understanding that water had leached down to fire, to the electrical box, precipitating the fire. I don't know if there was a fire response or not.
Oh, yeah.
The fire department showed up and obviously put that out. Mr. Wharton, in completing the renovation, going forward with the renovation, I think you have the appeal packet in front of you, which includes the pictures. You can see the picture before with the house, obviously showing the pitch line of the roof. And what Mr. Warren undertook was to raise, I think this is the clearest picture, is to raise the roof line on where the stairs come up into the top area. So what he was trying to do, having to redo it because due to the fire, was to alleviate simply stooping in order to get on the top floor. Mr. Patsky was out of town at the time that Mr. Warren made the decision. He wasn't aware by changing the pitch line, it would affect usage of the space because he wasn't changing the linear square footage of the property. He was only changing that pitch line on one side. Mr. Essenbacher's right. The code requires that it be reviewed, and it triggers the parking review. However, my understanding is with this property, and Paul can correct me, is that this property has been grandfathered in previously. I have not seen that paperwork, so I take that on good faith. That it's been grandfathered in, and his position here tonight is to simply ask for the variance, number one, to not have to restore the property to the original pitch line, because it doesn't seem to serve any purpose to restore it to the previous pitch line. And if the board finds that it triggers the provision for review of the parking, as Mr. Essenbacher, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Essenbacher indicated, that a variance be given for parking and leave it in the status quo. What Mr. Wharton had indicated earlier, and I think I indicated in the appeal, is that if the board would permit the variance with the parking, Mr. Wharton would even voluntarily reduce occupancy from that. Since he's not going to increase occupancy but doesn't want to lose the parking, obviously the parking benefit, which is there because it's a grandfathered piece of property, would indicate that he would be willing to do that. If I could share with the board, this was not prepared at the time we submitted the application. Mr. Wharton did go, there's enough copies I think, to the adjoining property owners with regard to the modifications to the property. And signature with regard to their permission to make the modification, whether prior or with after consent. I think the board would find, probably is aware of the property surrounding that area and the streets, that's indicative of the folks living in that immediate area who have no objection to the improvement that was added. Again, it states in the letter, maybe for the benefit of the viewing audience, directed to the Board of Zoning Appeals dated October 2nd this year. Dear Ms. Hollow and the fellow board members, we understand that due to remodeling from a recent fire at 7 South High Street, Mr. Wharton is now requesting a variance for parking requirements where 6 are required and 1 is currently present. I think somebody may have said there were none before, but there is actually 1, is my understanding. It's our understanding that Mr. Wharton is only adding about 150 cubic feet, which allows for easier use of the stairs going to the third floor attic bedrooms and some better functionality of the room itself. We've been informed by Mr. Wharton that this is not an intention to increase the number of room square footage of the structure or permitted occupancy level. We're signing this in neighbors in support of granting the variance for the parking requirements. So we'd ask that be added to the record if the board would so allow. Mr. Wharton, just as part of the history, I know we have a lot of landlords in town, and Brian Wharton has a number of units, and I wanted to hand these on his behalf just as examples, because I know it's hard to keep track of who owns what. These are examples of properties he's had that he's undertaken renovation of.
Has had or has?
Has. That he's undertaken renovation of. And I think it's clear which ones are the before or after pictures. But Brian Wharton has taken steps with a lot of his units to improve them, which I think benefits the city, obviously, and making it more presentable, and obviously for the renters who obviously benefit from the improvements that he's put into these residences. The construction that one of the members had mentioned before, after going by the place, and you can tell by the pictures, I think, submitted with the appeal packet, indicate that he's doing siding renovations as well. So there's ongoing siding. I think you can tell that the lower half is sided, but not the upper half, so he's continuing to do that. And also the water damage, the reason he was moving so rapidly and didn't wait for Mr. Patsky to return before clearing with him, my understanding is that Mr. Patsky was aware of the original project in the beginning, not the raising of the pitch, but the original rehab of the project due to the roof leakage. Is Patsky had already told him to go ahead and get it under roof was one of the problems, because we were experiencing about rain at the time. So he had tarps on the roofs. He lost 2 tarps as a result of this, about $500 tarps during the phase of demolishing it and trying to get back under cover. So he asked Mr. Patsky, the code director, whether he can get it at least under roof. He gave him the authority to do that, to get it under roof. But Mr. Patsky was gone when he came up with the idea to change a pitch of the roof to allow the stairwell access at standing height. So we would ask the board's permission and the board's indulgence with the variance here today for that particular property, only with our position being that he hasn't changed the linear square footage. He did go up on that side of the house, on the right side. The adjoining neighbors don't have a problem with that, with the change that he did. And understanding that if the board accepts that, we'd ask that they keep the parking the same, because he hasn't changed anything else with regard to the house as far as the tenants or the usage of the house in its present state. And we think it would be reasonable to allow it to stay in status quo as far as the parking goes, where it is right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Somewhere along the way, I think I got confused. Okay. He does in fact have 1 parking space, is that correct? Is it in the driveway?
Yes.
I've got the driveway.
Do you want to introduce yourself officially?
Brian Wharton. Actually, I have the
Give us an
driveway.
address, would you give us
Oh,
an
I'm sorry.
address?
109 University Estates.
Okay.
The parking situation I have, it's a stacked situation where there's only 1 legal parking spot, but they do park 2 cars there. There's a garage that they pull into, and then the driveway. So there's two spots there that they can actually use. And if I may, I just want to give you a clear picture of how we got here in about a minute summary. I had a roof leak, and I hired a gentleman from Ravenswood, West Virginia, a roofing company, to re-sheet the roof and whatnot. When he had it torn off, we had a lot of rain one night. I mean, like, it was in June. It was like an inch of rain overnight, and it just really soaked the place. And he got it covered up with a tarp that, it was a big tarp. It was a single tarp. I mean, so it was like $500 to buy the tarp, is what he told me. About 3 days of it being covered up, there was a fire sparked in the second floor bathroom from the electric being wet from when the roof was off. Fire department showed up, obviously soaked it. I mean, the whole top of the house was engulfed in flames. It was on the front page of the Messenger. They soaked it, and then now I had just charred ruins upstairs, and every ceiling in the place was, it was all plaster. I mean, they were ruined. The floors are all wood. They were warped, and so and then the second floor was pretty charred because that's where the fire started. Then I had to get it covered up because I'm waiting for the insurance adjuster and all that stuff, and you know how long that might take. Well, it took about a month and a half for the insurance, but I had to buy another tarp because in the meantime we had that big rain where all the electric went out, like for 10 days. So it ripped that tarp off. So I had to buy another tarp, which was $500. A week later or so, we had another huge storm, there goes another $500 tarp. And so I'm still waiting on the insurance, and I'm like, these tarps are getting ripped off, and John said, yeah, just, you know, you got to get it covered up with something more permanent. So I had no idea that changing the roof pitch, I had always been familiar with increasing footprint, but I had no idea with changing the roof pitch. So one half of the roof, I did decrease the pitch, because as you're going up the stairs make a turn and then come back in the attic, and it was kind of cramped if you were over like 5'5". And then instead of a 3-high knee-high wall, it went down to like a 6. So there was like 130 square feet, made a bigger closet, just made the room nicer for the students. And so I did that, and then he came back, and my paperwork was sitting at the code office waiting to be approved at this time. But he said, I have no problem drying it in with something more permanent. So then when he came back, he said, hey, you changed the pitch of the roof. You know, this is not conforming anymore. So he said, you know, I had no problem with you drying it in. He said, but don't do any more work up there, but you can do the work throughout the rest of the house, like all the drywall work, the floors, the bathroom in the second floor. When we were up there, when I had the guys up there, I thought for a couple years that I wanted to re-side it. So I talked to the contractor who was up there, got a bid for the re-siding, decided to have it re-sided, decided to remodel the kitchen. I mean, I've got a really nice kitchen from Scott Brooks down on State Street. So really the place is, I've done more than what I planned to do, but I like to make the places nice. The one picture that you've been given on Congress Street, where I've added the front porch, I'm going to re-side that house in the spring and put new windows in. So I put a lot of effort into the properties, and so that's why the top half of the house isn't sided. I'm waiting on whether to get the go-ahead to continue to work up there and finish the inside as well. But the guys are up there working on other stuff. So that's my
Okay, so
summary.
I think I've got it straight about the parking. You can stack 2, is that right?
Well, physically, yes. Under the law, we can only count it as one space
Okay,
because
so
it is
let's just be
R3.
conservative and say
But
we
if
have
they're
one.
able to put a second car in there without blocking the sidewalk or any other
All right,
problems, then
so
we
there
don't
is,
object.
there is a faint semblance of parking already there.
Yes, there's one space in the garage if the garage can be used.
All right, and so there was the possibility of reducing the tenants to 5, but now,
Yeah, I mean, he's still willing to do so, and if the board's willing to grant the variance with regard to with the parking.
okay.
Brian.
So you would move to 5 tenants, but keep 6 parking spaces, is that right? Or keep,
Go ahead.
Well,
does
I mean, if with 5 people, he'd still have one official space there.
okay,
Right.
then he would be working with, he would only need 5, and he has 1, possibly 2.
Yeah, that's why I want to be absolutely clear on how many people they intend to have in the
Okay,
house.
exactly, me too.
Can I get a clarification here? If it's illegal to have, is it illegal to have stacked parking?
No, not in
Yes.
this, in this zone?
It's illegal to count stacked parking. Right now, it's a legal nonconformity, the fact that they only have one space there. If anything changed, like increase in the footprint, increase in occupancy, it'd have to come completely full. What we're saying is, physically, there can probably be 2 spaces there. There's room for 2 cars, but we can only count 1 official parking space.
Right, but in an R3, you can stack parking.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be
Yeah.
clear on that.
Okay. So there's the possibility of compromise with going to 5 tenants instead of 6.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I threw that out there because I wanted to make it perfectly clear, this was not a profit-motivated, it was purely just trying to make it ease of use and improve, you know, I mean, just improve the place and make it nicer for the tenants, so.
Existing tenants,
Yeah.
which are displaced right now, obviously.
Yeah,
I
have
found
you,
a temporary place.
have you historically provided parking for your tenants, maybe off campus, or off the place?
Let's
or
don't work on
Well,
that.
I give them all the parking that I have on each site. I mean, I don't charge them for it. I mean, whatever. parking
But
there.
your tenants never required in like in a parking
No,
space or something?
the two ability to put 2 cars there has always been sufficient for them.
Okay.
So could I get a clarification in your statement
Mr. Wharton, you say it's 600 cubic feet, and yet we're hearing 150 cubic feet?
No,
150 square feet.
square feet,
Square feet.
just on the floor as opposed to three-dimensional space.
Oh, that's what it is saying.
Upwards, not
Right.
laterally.
But in this, right, so what he's saying here is this is 600 cubic feet of approximately.
That was my initial estimate. We've measured it since. It's about 150 square feet, cubic feet, that I've increased the ceiling height
Right,
at.
I understand the
Yeah,
difference.
that's all. Yeah, so the 150 is the more accurate number. The 600 was just a way off,
Ballpark.
yeah, ballpark from the very beginning, but the 150 has been measured, it's just under that.
So do you use the third floor, this attic area that you're expanding, do you use that as a bedroom?
There was an existing bedroom up there, yes. And so now I just decreased the pitch to give the space a little more usability, because it would slant down to 3 feet and you'd have to do this, you know what I mean? But
I know, I've lived in an attic room
Yeah.
when I was going to school.
Yeah.
So then, if you would reduce this to 5, you wouldn't need that third floor, is that correct? You would have,
No, that's not correct. There's another room that they'll use in the basement from time to time, but that this is the preferred room for sure.
so it's 3 bedrooms, a basement room that is used as a bedroom, and then the attic.
When there's 6 in the house, there is,
Okay.
yes, but I'm willing to just reduce it to 5.
Okay, great. All right, questions? Other questions from either person? Okay. Well, we don't seem to have anybody to give support or opposition or general comment.
I
Yes,
just want to make sure I'm clear, because I
Okay.
understand the way he said it, and I don't want there to be a miscommunication. Mr. Warren was indicating that he'd be willing, if the board would be kind enough to grant the variance on the parking, you'd be willing to voluntarily reduce occupancy to 5.
okay. So if you reduce the occupancy to 5, he only needs 5 parking spaces, and he has 1.
Right, so the
Legal.
variance would have to be for 4.
Well, the
Well,
variance
variance
is
just
for
have
5.
to be rewarded for,
Sure.
that he needs 5 parking
He
spaces.
needs 5
but
parking
a
spaces.
variance.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
where only 1 is available, and
Yeah.
this is contingent on reducing it to 5 people.
Five,
So that he has
correct.
5 spaces.
Yes.
Okay, I think we got it straight enough. Okay. Anything else you all want to ask? Everybody's clear? Okay. I guess. Okay. First, we need a motion, and you're going to have to modify this agenda statement a little bit to get one straightened out.
Ms. Chairperson?
Yes.
I'd like to suggest that whoever makes the motion, besides changing the numbers from 0 parking spaces where 6 parking spaces are required to 1 parking space where 5 parking spaces
Right.
are required, I'd also ask that wording be put in, like somewhere, a non-conforming residential structure with 5 tenants.
Thank you for doing that for us. Okay. Somebody want to iterate that, what Mr. Eschenbacher just said?
Okay. I move the board consider variance case number 1211V, 7 South High Street. Appellant Brian Wharton requesting a variance from ACC 230504C and ACC 2310 Table B, off-street parking requirements, to allow remodeling that adds cubic content to a non-conforming residential structure that has 1 parking...
That has
With 5 tenants,
Thank
okay,
you.
structure, thank you.
5 tenants.
That has 1 parking space where 5 parking spaces are the required minimum.
Okay. Second, anybody?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, comments before we consider the findings? Okay. Here are the findings to be considered. practical difficulty and undue hardship based on exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of the regulations would result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes.
Well, initially, I don't think there were any undue hardships. Practical difficulties or undue hardships that just needed repair and replacement from all of the damages, which was seemed to be quite extensive.
Well, the question is, will we create undue hardship that's not necessary if we literally interpret the code?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
How so?
Yeah, I would like to
It's
know how
always
so.
the one that's sort of difficult. The question is, if you always interpret the code absolutely literally, is that necessary always? Or do you, in fact, sometimes create
I
an
understand
undue
that.
hardship? Okay.
How are we creating an undue hardship if we
Well,
apply the code here?
maybe John needs to explain.
Right.
Well, again, we are here to hear the cases, and we will be, as she said, creating undue hardship if we just go strictly by the code. But by the code, according to the code, that 20 whatever is number there, the code office has denied the variance. So if we strictly go by that definition, then we are creating a hardship.
Because in fact, he is adding cubic feet, and it is a non-conforming property. So ideally, you would not make any additions of any feet in any which way at all. Because they're finally supposed to disappear. Non-conformities are supposed to come into compliance or be raised or disappear or go up in smoke. Okay.
And the same token, every time that we deny a variance, we do create a hardship. That's the case.
Sometimes it's necessary to maintain the code. Sometimes it's not. In this case, he's actually going to reduce one tenant, requiring one fewer parking spaces. So I think if we literally interpret it and said you've got to get rid of this non-conformity no matter what, that it would be unnecessary for the purposes of the code, in my interpretation.
I'm very troubled by the construction going ahead without a permit.
I agree with
And
that.
I'm troubled by the confusion between the definitions of the word repair and remodel. It strikes me that the damage could be repaired without changing the roof line or anything else. And that,
Especially someone who has that much records of.
Right, exactly. We
yes,
see all that
we're
experience.
not talking about somebody without experience. And it seems like one of these ask forgiveness rather than ask permission situations.
I do agree, except it seems that they didn't expect the fire or the flood.
No one expects a fire or a
Yeah,
flood.
but we're talking after
We're
that
talking
fact,
about what
right?
decision was made,
Right.
in terms of what to do with roof line, right?
And so who created the undue hardship of use?
I'm saying that we would if we interpret this literally, in my opinion, because the need for parking will be reduced by one, the tenant will be reduced by one, and the same spaces interiorly will be the same, except one room will be more comfortably large. You won't have to stoop over to get into it, which I don't know why it was ever approved as a bedroom anyway, but it was, so okay.
I have to disagree that that's...
Yeah, I think that, I also disagree.
We often disagree, so that's
Okay.
fine. Let's go on to our next thing. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. So is there something exceptional or extraordinary about this property or its use?
It's sometimes difficult, Betty, especially in this case, to see which side of the fence we're talking about. And so, I guess, so know that, to me, looking from my side of the fence, all the properties have the same issue. Nobody has any parking. They all have to meet the code to maintain their grandfathered status,
Right.
the non-conforming status. So, to
One of the
me,
special circumstances was the fire and the flooding that caused to renovate the place, and of course, they wanted to make it a little bit nicer, better. They spent more than what they
But this
should
is
have.
beautiful.
Yeah, I know. This
I know,
was before.
But,
Right,
yes, but that's before the fire.
Was before.
right, so you,
Right, but
but it could have been maintained in the same situation.
And then it would be used as a bedroom, and the person would have to stoop down to get
That's
in.
correct.
It should
That's
never have
correct.
been approved as a bedroom.
Right, but that's not what we're
That's
here
not what we're
considering.
dealing with.
Now,
Right, that's
I'm
not our
just guessing,
issue.
I don't know exactly,
Okay.
but I'm guessing if it's 150 cubic feet, and assuming that the
Square
square would be 150, they probably increased by about a foot or maybe 1.5 foot, something like that, neighborhood, so.
It looks substantial here.
Yeah, it looks very substantial if you
Because
look
if
at
it's any
the,
more than that, then it would be more than 150 cubic feet.
Well, so
Right.
the other roof was coming down just
Right.
like this side, so, and it had the dormer on the front.
no, I think they've raised that, if you see,
Okay.
I was putting, if you
Yeah, I
put
guess
this.
you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's increased substantially.
Okay, well, some people say that the fire is exceptional, and some say not, so okay, let's proceed. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone in the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance would not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone. I dare say that every house on that street is grandfathered with, probably with parking. So in this case, it probably is a preservation of the equal property rights, because I expect they're all in the very same situation. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property.
I would say that has not been met.
Well, I would say that it is, because, in fact, the use of the house will be the same. 5 bedrooms, 5 people versus 6 people. But in terms of the actual use, I don't see that it's increasing the use monumentally. But, again, we may disagree. Okay. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest.
Well, they say in here that because of the changes, the pitch of the roof, there could be minor light and air change to the adjoining neighbors. So that's what they're saying themselves.
Who is saying?
Number 8.
Yes, it's stated in his statement in our
Okay.
package.
These houses are not as close together as some in Athens, I'll have to say that.
And we do have this letter from all of the landlords.
Sure. Yes, none of the landlords,
The owners of
because
those
they might be in the
properties,
same situations.
Well, right, exactly. I think that absence of detriment where it states will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest, I think that it definitely will, because basically we're rewarding a violation. And I think we have that issue here, and I think
Yeah.
if we reward violations, then who will follow the code? We've seen those issues here before, and I just think that it's not wise to reward violations. If the whole top of the house was pulled off with a tornado, I mean, I've seen that happen in places.
Well, I understand your point, but
Right.
to be fair, we should not consider that in our judgment, if assuming that, that wasn't the case. They started the building without permit, that's another case, another situation, but let's look at this objectively based on its own merits, its own,
Well, I thought
what's been
that's what I was
presented to
doing,
us.
that this would, I mean, all the evidence considered
Yeah.
is that
Let's assume they had the permit,
they didn't have the permit.
I know, let's assume. Assuming they had, how would
Oh,
it
if they
work
would
then?
have had if they would have gotten the permit, they would have gotten the permit because they would have gone through the whole process. They would have gone down to the code office. Mr. Paskey would have said, no, we can't do this. They would have come to the board. We wouldn't be in this situation of facing a violation
Well,
before coming to the board.
at some
And that's my
point.
point.
Maybe it wasn't soon enough to suit you, but at some point, they did have to come and ask for a variance, and that is why we're here.
Well, they did, but code had to go and stop them and tell them they had to come and do that. So,
Okay.
I don't know.
You might remember that we, early on in my tenure on this board, considered a deck that had been built
Yes.
behind a house, and that person was not a landlord, so there was sort of an assumption that that person's ignorance was permissible. And in retrospect, I think we were wrong. That they should have, we granted the variance for them to have, not to have to disassemble their deck.
Right.
Because they said they didn't know any better,
Right.
But I think a lot of people could easily come and say they don't know any better, and we have to say.
Well, that is true.
People need to
That
find out
happens
what.
from time to time.
Yeah.
And you want to make an example of Mr. Horton, so okay.
No, this is not a personal thing. We're looking at a whole packet of
Okay.
properties.
Those are your words.
Okay, can we move on?
Ours.
Okay. So the last thing is not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is, I've already read that, sorry. Okay. So I think that's it. So,
There is no, the last one you didn't read before.
well, not of a general nature? Okay, I guess I just read it earlier. Condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the said property for which the variance is sought, one or the other, or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. And I would typically say no, except that recently we did hear another case about cubic footage being added, didn't we? So, okay. Comments, other things that you would like to express before we take a vote? No?
My client was interested in saying a couple more.
All right,
Is that
yes,
okay?
we could do that. Since we don't have anybody waiting, we don't normally open the
Thank you.
floor
I just want to
again.
clear up
Okay.
two things. One is, I did go down to the code office and turn in the paperwork and take the necessary steps. The urgency in this situation was, we had two of the more severe storms we've had in the area in quite some time. They were like within a week apart from each other. So I had the top half of the house was torched up. I didn't have a roof anywhere, and I had the insurance company breathing down my neck to secure the roof line so they didn't have to pay any more money or water damage. And, so they're calling me every day, telling me, do you have a new tarp on the roof? The tarps are $500 a piece. Both of them didn't withstand the storms and leaked further. And so I turned my paperwork in with the code office. John happened to go on vacation with his girls' softball team at the time, and so it was just a storm of horrible. It was a great summer. Let me tell you, this has been a wonderful experience. So when he got back, he saw what I did, and then he even said, well, I don't have a problem with you drying it in, but let's just stop there until I did put the windows in. But that's it. Okay. I've put the windows in since then. And then in retrospect, with me not knowing the whole code, I'll admit I don't know the whole. There's a lot of code to know. I did know that if you increase the footprint of the house, right. I knew that one. And there was another one that was in my head here. It was the footprint and roof line. If you added roof line, I knew that. And I knew you had to stay within 60% of lot coverage for decks and parking. But I didn't know about a roof pitch one. That one, I'm ignorant to that one, but that's it.
All right, thank you.
I think roof line is roof line.
Yeah, it is.
So
I think he's a little cubic feet, I think, is the...
It's still the roof line.
Yeah, it is, but I don't think
people... We've done roof line before.
Yeah, okay. Well, the moral of the story is, I guess, every land person in Athens should have a copy of the code and read it frequently. The floor is actually closed, so we're going to keep it closed, I guess, except for that exception. So are you ready to vote? Mr. Galsey?
Well, ladies first.
Oh, I'm starting with you.
In that case, I would say yes.
Okay. Ms. Graneski?
No.
Okay. Ms. Carson?
No.
Ms.
Yes.
Duffy? Yes. And I will also vote yes, so you will have the variance, and you can take that up with Mr. Eschenbacher about what to do next, okay? Once again, we're very happy to have a new member, and the only business we have that I know about is the minutes. Anybody read the minutes carefully? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve them as written.
Okay. So moved. All right, thank you. Anything else to take up? Very well, thank you. And thank you.
Did I see you reading this